What's up, my creative people, the painting fam, anyone who's watching this video, or just my lecturer who will watch this video as part of my assignment. Today I'll be going through my most recent body of work, the towel, and its artistic representation, the space in between. I'll be explaining my process, any personal reflections that I have gathered, and discussing the overall body of work. Just a little bit about myself. I am again Jazzo Creative. I work with different types of media.
Apologies, I said media, but I meant mediums.
My creative practice is influenced heavily on my life experiences. So in saying that, I do focus a lot on cultural expressions, and I work to actively contribute to the space of Indigenous artisanal work, specifically for me, Pacifica Indigenous artisanal works, and the continuation of those kinds of art forms. In saying that, I am an artist who finds the most value in the process. What that means is I love the beginning and I love the end product, but I do love all the twists and turns to get me to that end product. So as a direct result of this, I've created the Jazzo Recipe, and I'll go through what that is and how it's helped me develop my work, this work. I don't like cooking in real life, but I cook up in the studio. I've been making things, movies, art, all of that. We digest that, we reflect and relate. See where I'm going with this? I am Chef Jazzo, the artist. I am making something made for consumption, something that people can feast upon, feast their eyes upon, feast their eyes upon.
It's 7 p.m. Friday, it's 95 degrees.
The Jazzo Recipe. The process itself has 5 steps. Number 1, what do I want to eat? What is it that I want to create? 2, the ingredients, my research and the gathering of my materials. 3, the cooking stage, the actual creating process of it all. 4, the plate up. I like to get my things to a level, like a standard. That's my own personal preference, but it is part of my process. And step 5, which is to eat and critique. In this space, I do a lot of personal reflection and so, time to show you the plan in action. First step of the process is what I want to eat, what I want to create. For this assignment, it called for a refinement of my processes, techniques, and skills in general, surrounding something that you're already actively working on within your practice. So as a result, I decided to add another installment to my Palmtail series. Palmtails is something that I've been working on throughout my degree. What it is a compilation of short stories based in Polynesian mythology. They are made up. I haven't tried to rewrite old stories. I've just made them up with the intention of telling a good little story, as well as creating personal stimuli for me to always have inspiration to draw from for my creative work. For Palmtails 1, I created 4 short stories, and I created these wood burning panels so that they could accompany the story. Palmtails 2, 4 short stories based on love and loss. To accompany the stories, I painted these 4 paintings. And you see the theme. I create a story to respond to artistically. So for this assignment, instead of creating 4 short stories and 4 artistic representations, I decided to do 1 story and 1 painting. So with that in mind, in this space, I created my plot summary, developed my characters,
and made character outlines to help in the general consistency of my story.
The next step, gathering my ingredients, doing my research and gathering my materials. What I mean by research is that I wanted to include themes that fell under the umbrella of self-discovery. Also, themes that are prevalent within society currently and within the Polynesian community. In saying this, I fell upon 5 themes that I wanted to include: spousal and family abuse, health and well-being, Western beauty standards, financial literacy, and identity. Not only did my research prove that these issues are quite prevalent, it allowed me to hone my lens further and allow me to create a more intentional message. It included truths that I believe that many of us can relate to, especially those navigating Western society whilst trying to remain true to your culture, true to your heritage. In this space also, I gotta go buy my paint and my canvas, paintbrushes and stuff, because sometimes I forget to wash my brushes, so I gotta buy new ones every time. Bad for the environment and for my wallet, but that's alright. Now that I have my ingredients, the research I've done, and the materials that I have collected, we can start cooking. The cooking stage. It's time to create. Again, Chef Jazzo, insert hat. This stage in itself has 3 components. The cooking, which is creating, the tasting, which is the reviewing of what you've made, and the adjusting of the spice, which is making amendments to what I've created to remain consistent and continue with the overall theme of the piece. Essentially, I'm creating 2 meals. So I need to treat them as such. Go through the process for 2 separate pieces, the written component and the artistic component. Meal 1 and 2, the story and the art.
I'm the biggest hater. I hate the way that you talk.
Going through this process for meal 1, the story, I would write a few chapters, 5 or 6, review those chapters, make any edits. Using the guidance of my plot summary and my character development outline, I would go through and change things if necessary, or at least change the plot summary to remain consistent throughout the story. For my painting, this process of cooking and creating came much later because I needed to write the story first to figure out what I wanted to paint. To keep those creative juices going, I would actually draw a picture or illustrate a scene from the chapters that I had previously written. All this to continue and cultivate the creative juices within me until I figured out what I wanted to paint. When I figured it out, I would paint a few layers, take a step back and see if I was traveling well with the intention of my piece. I would then make the amendments necessary to continue painting in this direction or take things out that I felt like didn't fit the aesthetic or didn't fit the main theme of this piece. Although this was a difficult process because I'm an artist that just wants to get things done. I want it to be finished now. But it takes time. You have to go through this step, cook and repeat to remain consistent. You need to be able to step back as an artist and reflect on what you're doing to see the bigger picture. After weeks of following through with this, through layers and chapters, tears, backspace, repaint,
The general bad thoughts that we have when creating. Yeah, this sucks. Start again. You should throw that away. You go to uni for that.
I completed my body of work, or to the best of it. This was an assignment piece. I was bound by a time frame, something that outside of a university landscape I wouldn't be constricted to. But I think that the timeline and the time frame that I had is good practice, being able to meet deadlines when deadlines are there. Look, we are almost ready to eat. I know you're hungry. I know you want to eat this piece up. Well, when I was in this space, I just wanted to submit and get it over with. But that's not who I am. I'm extra. This is why this is a whole step, because presentation is important. That being said, in this step, depending on what I'm trying to create, I would usually try and embellish my work. Add a little razzle dazzle, if you will. If I had the time, I actually would have created a cover for the book, which I think it would have looked really awesome. But what I settled for was at least decorating the chapters so that it looked cool. To the painting itself, I just painted the borders, added a light varnish so that it wouldn't get damaged in transporting to and from my critique. I did have a lot of anxieties though, preparing, because this would be the first time I'm presenting something so small. I just have one painting and one story. It doesn't show my process. Can't see what I've done for the whole 12 weeks. It's just like I've rocked up with a book and a painting. So this video in itself is the razzle dazzle that I'm talking about. I made this video so that I could at least present my findings in this way, progress, my process, and the whole refinement development that I've gone through. And so with the razzle dazzle, razzled and dazzled, it's time to eat. There you have it, folks. The art. While I eat it up, I like to critique my work. This is where I do a lot of my personal reflection on the overall progress of my piece, what went well, what didn't go so well, reflecting on what I can do better to improve my practice. I am very proud of the piece that I have created. The book itself is a beautiful story through the lens of a young girl traveling the landscape of Western society, the corporate world, whilst also trying to remain true to herself and learning how important it is to know who you are. I think I've been able to capture our humor, the Polynesian humor, quite well within the story, as well as address the themes that I wanted to address in the beginning with my research, touching on subjects that aren't really spoken about within our community, whilst being able to shed a different light on some stereotypes and rewrite some narratives with the intention of fostering hope. The story writing process in general this time was quite fulfilling for me. I was able to remain intentional and create this body of work. Along the way, I did do a lot of mini reflections that showed me that writing this story in the perspective that I was writing in was actually so closely based to my personal experience. Being a Samoan woman, growing up in Australia and within Australian society, problems that we face being part of the diaspora, trying to fit into Australian society, how jarring that experience can be, as well as presenting possible outcomes, pushing the narrative forward of it is important to know who you are and it is okay to be who you want to be. It's a true story of loving yourself, your heritage, your family, and how knowing these things, knowing you are loved, can help you navigate any space in this life. I'm proud of this work because it truly is an encouraging piece. If I were to have read this years ago, perhaps coming into my own self, coming into my own identity would have been so much easier. Or well, not trying to say like I've written something that amazing, but you know, it contributes to those conversations of knowing who you are and how important that is, and being okay with who you are and knowing that you are loved. It is one of those stories that you will have to read to understand the artwork, which in itself I am so proud of. It includes themes that I've never really tried. The composition itself is a fantasy landscape, something that I've never really drawn or I've never done. And to have painted this with the technique of underpainting, which already is a frustrating thing for me because I like to have the piece done. I want it finished. My color theory in general, I feel like it has improved. I've used different kinds of colors, warm and cool, using that contrast to create and portray different kinds of emotions within the piece, as well as the painting techniques itself. Like I've used suggestions of trees, I've used the suggestion of clouds, and the idea that the two spaces are converging. Those whole ideas. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of exploration, and I'm glad that this is the first piece that I've done along these lines, and I feel quite proud with what I've done. I'm proud in my techniques and my use of them. I'm proud in how far that I've come. Like I know I have a long way to go, but look, I'm proud of where I'm at. It's encouraging, and I will continue to try and create these things, the images that I have in my mind, no matter how crazy they are or fantasy like. I've just never been that kind of artist, and I'm glad that I took a step out of my comfort zone to try to do this. Sticking with the process has paid off for me. And that is the Jazzo recipe. We did it, y'all. And I'm hoping that in this video, you were able to see the recipe in action and how I used it to create my artworks. Look, I'm not trying to say that I use it for every piece because, you know, you can just go draw whatever you want for free. But when I'm trying to create an intentional body of work, one with overarching messages, I am that pedantic that I do like to ensure that I remain consistent, that I have researched themes, that I have a true overarching message, so that I can execute the piece, the body of work, in the best of my abilities. Even though all artwork can be worked on further, like if a piece is never truly finished, you can always add or take things away. But getting it to a level where you're happy with it for the moment is great for me. And you know, if I do want to work on them further, which I will, that's a whole nother journey through the recipe. And I'm happy to take that. Maybe one day I will exhibit all my pieces and be able to put out my stories. But for now, I'll continue to work on them. It's still kind of daunting having to do that because I'm a beginner writer. I'm not that good, but you know, that's the goal. One day I will put it out there. Having the courage to put my creative works out there was a big thing for me, truly. It was like opening up my soul for people to look at and review and truly critique. It's taken me a long time to even get to this point where I can showcase my art, but putting my story out there, it's just another layer. It's like I'd be opening up my soul for people to read and see and judge and review. Like, just like I'm now used to showing my paintings, perhaps one day it'll be easier to show my written works, because I do want people to see my work. I want people to look at my pieces and relate, you know, if they can, if they want to. If not, that's cool too. And I know some people won't always like my works, and that leads me to my next point, is that not everybody is gonna love the things that you create. That in itself has been a learning for me. Not everyone's gonna like what you cook, and that's okay. As long as you like to eat it, it feeds your soul, then that's enough. The people that do love it will be your people and they'll appreciate it. But even then, if you're full, then you're full. As artists and as people, the validation we should first seek is within ourselves. It's art, you know. It's from one person to the other. It's to be shared. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the love, the pride, and the art.
Whether you watch just a little bit or the whole thing, I just want to say thank you. I really do love the art. It's my passion, and to share it with you all is, well, just to share it with anybody really, it's quite nice. And hopefully I'll be able to share some more things, journey through uni and just my creative journey in general. Anyways, thank you so much. Later.